I won't just remember the joke that I haven't done in 4 years. I'll remember the tag that I did just one time because it got a laugh. And it laughs, that chemical that was released in my head when people laugh at me, especially a new joke, it like cements it in my head.
Hi, and welcome to DADennial. My name is Mike Trank, and as you can figure, I'm a dad. I feel that's how a lot of other podcasts start, and those dads will tell you what their day's like. They'll probably talk about what it's like being a dad today too. But along with being a dad by day, I'm also a mental health counselor by night in my own private practice. As a clinician in private practice, and one of those dads sitting in pickup and drop-off lines for school, I wanted to share what I see in this ever-changing world. So together, let's create the best version of being a millennial dad. I just first wanted to thank everyone that has started subscribing and listening. I'll tell you, one of the craziest things is seeing on the Transistor page of who's listened and where. You can see states and stuff, but what blows my mind is the countries. I see that people in the countries of Georgia, one in Greece, and Japan, Australia, New Zealand has a few. That just kind of blows me away that people from all over the world, not just America, are listening to the show and appreciating it and subscribing to it and reaching out on social media. Facebook is DADennial, LinkedIn, Twitter, DADennial as well. You can go to the DADennial website. Please feel free to leave me feedback of what you think of the shows, who might be a guest, or if you want to come on the show. I'm always open to ideas and suggestions. This is an open idea that I've had about helping dads. And if you feel you have some ideas or thoughts of how to do that or how to give support to dads, please feel free to drop a message. Tonight is a very special guest. This is not a friend. This is not someone that I've ever had a conversation with before. This is someone that I actually found online through Facebook and YouTube and some of his clips. It's a new comedian to me, Sam Miller. He is touring all over the Northwest. We'll be in the South and the Northeast. I saw in the fall. SamMillerComedy.com. Check him out on his website. Check him out on his Facebook and Twitter and YouTube channels. He is not just a great stand-up comedian that I found absolutely hilarious. He has a great story of recovery and of substance use. And there's someone that has been homeless and been incarcerated and coming back from that and funnier than ever. And how he's moving forward now with 15 years sober, has a wife and 2 kids, and how he treasures them and how he tries to find that balance of being on the road of a comedian and being home. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my very special guest tonight, Sam Miller. Thank you.
I've done a lot better than my dad did, but it really wasn't that hard. As long as I don't terrify them, then I'm already killing it, So my biggest success as a 40-year-old sitting here is not the comedy success I've had. I would say that my biggest success is that I am a decent father, I'm a decent father. So
now there is truth in the fact of, and I've been asked it many times as a therapist and even in my own family, of what makes a good parent, what makes a good dad. And the one thing I always heard through different therapists, the old wise ones, of 80 to 90% of it is just giving a damn.
Yeah.
If you give a damn, they'll know, and you'll know you're trying. And you're gonna mess up many times a day. I probably messed up about 4 times today, but they still love me, I believe.
I messed up last night on the 4th of July because my kids were. I was worried that my kid was gonna I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, they were playing a national anthem, and I don't really care if my kids display patriotism or not. That's kind of up to them. It's kind of weird that we force it, I think. Mm-hmm. But they were playing the national anthem, but you couldn't hear it that well, but it was definitely happening at this fireworks thing. and my kids were like screaming and yelling. And I went and I grabbed my son's leg, and one of my sons has really long hair. And when I grabbed his leg, I accidentally got a piece of his hair. And I was like, Oliver, you got to be quiet. They're playing the national anthem, and he was upset because I pulled his hair a little bit, but it was an accident. He knew that. So I haven't yelled at my kids in a very long time, and I'm really proud of that too. Like, I've yelled before, and I try not to do that, And I've never put my hands on them, which is good.
That's a dad mug there. That's a number one dad mug deserved right there.
Yeah.
No, but
I did a show not that long ago. I have a joke where I'm like, yeah, I never hit my kids, but sometimes I squeeze their arms too hard. And I did that at this Department of Commerce show, and they did not like it. It was like in a corporate gig, and they shut down. Yeah.
No, there's truth in that. I think about it, and this is the therapist side of you broke the cycle, right? Of by not yelling, by being aware of that and not hitting them, that you've broken the cycle in the sense of when your kids are older and if they have a family or not, if they have kids of their own someday, that won't be one of those things in those minds, right? For maybe you and for me, it's in our minds because that's what we saw, it's what we know. But when you don't know that, when that is not even on the table of like something that is a possibility, then that changes. That's where the cycle stops.
The yelling, it's strange because like when my dad would yell, that was the beginning. When with me, the yelling was the end of like whatever dispute. Like I'm not, right. I think one of the reasons I hated being yelled at is that a lot of times it meant I was going to get my ass kicked, So
that built that correlation, sure.
Yeah. But I got a therapist for that. I met with my therapist yesterday. So
that's awesome.
I'm not putting that on you, Mike. So
no, that's what the show's for, is open up and talk, and talking to a dad and a therapist. It's a weird thing. I feel like there's not many of us that I've found. I'm oddly looking forward to see if shout out to DADCon. There's a DADCon going on in September in Milwaukee, and I'm going to be one of the speakers.
Oh, that's fantastic.
At DADCon. So it's this home dad network. So I'm going to get to see, I feel like, of just dads. I feel like it's when you're in your own little suburban community, you don't really know or see too many that, probably do like you, being with the kids during the day, or, just kind of having those stories to share of, it's going to be, interesting.
Stand-up comedy slows down in the summer, and so right now I really am wearing two hats. When the kids are at school, like a lot of the days are kind of like to myself. Like I usually spend at least 3 or 4 hours a day doing social media or booking. But when the kids are at school, man, like I put my kids on the bus, I get in my car, I ride downtown, and I sit in front of a coffee shop and drink coffee and like just kind of waste time for a couple hours, and that's not happening right now, and it bums me out.
So. I mean, the people watching alone, just sitting at a local coffee shop is inspiration for some jokes. Hey, I gotta go ahead.
I was gonna say it's important to me too to have like some time that's not devoted. That's the thing I'm working with my therapist right now, is that I never thought I'd have the issue where I try to work too much, but that indeed is where comedy has taken me right now. So,
well, just random kind of thought for myself is comedy is a drug itself, right? It gives you that rush and high that you can't get anywhere else. I mean, even if you're planning like, grandma's basement, you still get that rush. That it's been close to 11 years since I played my last show. I'll never forget it. It was actually fantastic in Boston at the old Hong Kong behind Fenway Park, which Boston was known for having great comedians for many years, and it's kind of taken a dip but gone back up lately. But I'll never forget. I knew it was like my last show of I was going to go into therapy and we go back to school full time and just kind of go in a different life. And I always enjoyed it. And someday maybe I'll tell jokes again.
You know what's strange, man, is I feel like sometimes the people that walk away, there are people that walk away from comedy and I wish they hadn't. There's people that stick with it and I wish they'd stop.
Sure.
This lifestyle, this way of life, this identity is not for everybody. I think people see comedy, they see it on social media, they see it on Netflix, they remember it from when they were younger, and all they see is like the onstage part, and they assume there's work, they hear there's work, but I don't think people realize just to get to where I've gotten in comedy, even though like my biggest credit is Bob and Tom, and Bob and Tom's a big deal. I was really happy.
That's a huge deal for comedians. Yeah, that's kind of passing through if you got the torch kind of thing. If you're next up, kind of.
But even to get to where I'm at, like the amount of work that it took and the sacrifices that not just me but my family made, kids included, and it's not some of it's like not measurable. Like maybe I do a show in Portland and then I hit a mic on the way back, and it puts me out like another 40 minutes or something, like even that, like all that stuff adds up, I'm more tired in the mornings. I've lost some friendships for sure,
Yeah. It's a different animal in terms of, just who you're around, the night creatures. It's a different lifestyle than the daytime for sure. And, it's that work too, right? If you see the end product on Netflix or Comedy Central or whatever, you watch YouTube, and you don't realize how long it takes just to even get your solid 5, right? In the stand-up business of to have your, give us your 5. That's that takes a long time just to get that honed in. Of wherever I go, whatever I do, I can give you 5, and that alone. But then to create 20 minutes to be in the middle and to be a headliner of 50 minutes is a lot.
Yeah, it's gotten wild, man. I can't believe that I'm at this point in my comedy career. Like I'm very confident doing an hour of comedy anywhere.
That's awesome. And
it's been I never really had a plan. Like you said, this is a drug.
But to be on stage, the kind of feedback, it's just, and you leave with such euphoria of you're floating on cloud 9 if you're cloud 9 if you're a
Cloud Line is a good one.
Cloud Line is definitely a comedic. That's how you. That's the after party usually for comedy, especially in Tampa. Boy, that was a ride.
I can't even imagine. I've been clean and sober for 15 years, and awesome. 15 years in June, and it's a big part of not just who I am, but it's a big part of my comedy, my routine, and also a big part of my future. Because eventually, my goal is to primarily do comedy for other people. In recovery, like that's like my favorite thing to do, because regular people get tired of meth jokes, and I don't. I think all jokes should be meth jokes.
Yeah, that's a solid 5 right there.
Yeah.
What do you feel is, for yourself with that history, is that the most difficult thing to kind of manage your way through? You were talking about your family and your kids. That's obviously a big part of it. But that lifestyle, that being a comedian at night, it is fueled with users and people around that can tempt you. That's got to be very difficult too, to stay where you want to be.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I've never had like a lot of cravings associated. I was a bouncer before I started doing comedy. I was a bouncer when I was in recovery. I've had people like hold up bags of cocaine in front of me, guys that I used to get high with. I've had the same thing in comedy, man. I've been around like, coke, weed everywhere. Alcohol, I don't think there's as much alcohol use as there used to be in stand-up. I think people have kind of gotten hip to the fact that like, if they get a, reputation as a drunk, it's going to hurt them,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My issue is keeping that balance between, I've let comedy kind of take me away from my recovery community before, that's happened. I kind of started doing this thing where it's like, if I'm not actively driving to a show or performing comedy or promoting comedy, I need to be like making it up to my family for how much I'm doing those things. And so that's what it was, is everything was like this give and take, where like Like if I spend 5 units of time towards comedy, I need to make sure my wife gets 5 units of time where she doesn't have the kids, you know. And what I forgot to do was those other units where I'm taking care of how any of this is possible, and that's me being in recovery, you know. So that was rough. I had that for a while. I think I'm getting better at it. I think my communication with my wife is like vital. And also the fact that like I make decent money doing comedy now, which blows me away. I wasn't expecting that to happen. So,
no, that's great.
Yeah,
that definitely shows that you're on the rise.
Upwards of $100.
Isn't the joke of like, right, you only work 1 hour, it's the other 7 hours that need to fill in there. That's one of the tough things.
There's a guy you should reach out. There's a comic named Gabe Rutledge, and he had this thing. So like Spokane is about 7 hours. Well, not 7 hours. It's like 6 hours from us, 5 hours. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it's far away. And if I told like a brand new comedian, I'm like, hey, listen, man, there is $20 in a paper bag there in Spokane. All you got to do is go out there and get it. He'd be like, no, man, I'm not driving all the way to Spokane for $20. I said, listen, we want you to do 7 minutes of comedy and we'll give you $20. They're like signed up, you know, they're ready to go.
Wow.
You know?
That's not even gas money nowadays.
I know. It's ridiculous. That's what it is, man. That's what it is.
What was either your first joke or your first like inspiration for that joke? Because I always remember mine.
Yeah. You go first.
You want to hear mine? So mine was when this is going back to 2007's picture, a guy with a thinner build, fuller hair, and could actually fit in his jeans correctly. And so I was broken up with my girlfriend at the time, and the gym that I was going to, well, I hadn't gone to in a while, but I felt like this was the time to go to it. I used the free trainer day, and she was very serious. She took me into the room. She's like with pad and pen, and all right, so what do you want to change about yourself? And I think maybe like you, as I saw like one of your posts recently of your old driver's license that you put a penile on there.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I feel like maybe it's just that thing of ADD or attention span or something that we have that's like, all right, I need to lighten up the room. I need to do something that's just, it's getting too serious for me. We're talking in the gym here of like, what, you know, like I just broke up with my girlfriend. I don't want to talk about anything serious. So, and this is how I brought it into my comedy act of like, well, when she asked me of, you know, what I wanted to change about me, I said, everything I see in front and everything I can't see behind me, it's flapping around. So I don't want my mother to say, damn, I look good in those jeans again. It's not what you want. Not what you want a first date. So that's kind of where it started, of me dating again and me trying to get back out there of using that in 2007.
That hits. Did it go well?
That was part of the 5. It went from that into, you know, my other one that always got a hit was I tried tanning bed. That's still when they were still, you know, that's how old this is. So, you know, I felt like a pressed Cuban sandwich with the meat hanging out the side. I was like, you know, I'm built like Grimace and I run like the Hamburglar.
I like that, man.
Yeah, well, it's with the Florida flair. That's why I go with the Cuban sandwich there. What was yours?
My first joke. I went up on stage, and it's a story that I've told a lot of times to a lot of people. And I basically told this story about, this is kind of dirty, but it's not that bad. It's not like sexual. It's just gnarly. I was making a cup of noodle. I was drunk late at night at my mom's house. And I went to, you know, I pulled the noodle out of the microwave. I get the fork. I put the fork on top of the cup of noodle. And then I'm really tall. I'm about 6'6", and I was wearing boxers. And anyway, the way things were sitting, I shoved the tip of my penis in the silverware drawer, and it hurt so bad it made me like pass out. Like it was really wild. I've never experienced anything like it. It was almost like when I did it, it was like it didn't even hurt my penis. It like hurt everything. It was like getting like electrocuted or something like that. Like, I think there's so many like pain sensors right there. Like, I don't really think there's more of a sensitive part of my body outside of like the tip of my penis. And I really did just slam it in a drawer, and it was terrible. I passed all the way out.
That's when you had comedy gold there, huh?
Yeah, and you know what's weird, man, is like I went up there and I told that story, and there was actually a decent crowd at this mic, and I did pretty well, man, and was immediately hooked. Like, not just like a feeling like, oh, this is something I might want to try again. I was like, oh, like I'm gonna get divorced. Like that was a really, I'm not even lying, that was like my first thought.
That's where you were.
This is gonna wreck my marriage. I'm screwed, you know. So
how long ago was that?
9 years, man.
Been
doing it 9 years now, except for COVID, obviously. But like, well, it's not obvious for our Florida people. I have friends of mine in the Northwest that moved to the South to do comedy during COVID.
Right. Oh, they were open, yeah.
Yeah, it was, honestly, man, I gotta say, I think I've done 2 to 4 shows a week for that whole time, you know.
Wow.
Right now, I'm probably doing 3 or 4 shows a week on average.
That's great.
Yeah, maybe in a month, you know, every weekend's generally booked now. And then probably like a weeknight every week too. So I don't know, man, it's a lot of freaking comedy, dude. 13, 14 shows a month, sometimes more. Things slow down in the summer. That's something I'm dealing with right now. Not a fan, but it's something that I got to deal with. So, yeah, because I just want to go, man. That's just the way I'm built. So,
yeah, no, it can be tough to kind of reset and kind of spend time with family or create new material. It's, you know, you're going one speed, and then you have to slow down to another and kind of reassess. And yeah, I can understand that. But no, that's awesome that you're built the career up to this point in 9 years. That I feel like you're on the cusp there. I feel like just hearing your stuff, people can listen to.
Yeah, on stage, man. I feel like my stuff stacks up against most of the famous folks out there. It just takes like, but I also know, man, there's a lot of comedians that are kind of at the same level I am, and it can go either way, you know. I keep kind of thinking like that I think I'm going to be all right, just because I think that a lot of the stuff I'm doing is like pretty unique. I think the rise of like true crime, like, and I also think the way we're looking at addiction is a lot different than it used to be. And I think there's a better lane for me than there used to be.
No doubt. I think maybe the summertime too is what you're doing. If you're doing things online and social media where people can watch you live stream, can watch you, saw you down by the river there with your boys.
Yeah, man. I'll probably do another one of those here in a little bit. It's tricky. It's hard to do by yourself, man, because, you know, generally, man, what happens, I go live and I just kind of sit here and tell people like where I'm booked in places, but I know it is a good way to like build a following and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll see. I might go later tonight.
It's going to the river and being down there. Is that kind of your happy place? I feel like when I watch those videos.
I was down there today, man. I took my friend Jess Anderson. She's the co-host of our podcast. I have a podcast called The Tarp Report with Sam and Jess. It's pretty good. We're working on it, you know. We're kind of... I've
listened. It's definitely some funny stuff.
Yeah, we're weird people.
That's comedy. That's comedians. That's why we're special and different. No, it is a good show. Definitely people need to listen to The Tarp Report. After DADennial or before, one or the other. You can pick and choose if you want. A little more therapy talk and a little less comedy, or vice versa. You can pick your...
Maybe listen 1 minute to this and then 1 minute to that, and then keep switching back and forth, and then you can have ADHD like me, and you'll be doing a lot better. So
that's why I put the music in the background. I told them, of like, any podcast I listen to, if it doesn't have something in the background, just in the subconscious, so to speak, I'm out. Like, it just my brain just turns off. You even know, like I need to just have it in the background, just kind of keeps that left side calm and the right side yapping away, and somewhere. You know.
My wife came home today, and I was working on some graphic design stuff, and I made the analogy that my brain is like a cow's stomach, and it has like those separate compartments. And so like there's like 4 brains inside my head.
Yep.
And two of them are yelling, one of them's asleep, and one of them's hiding from the other 3. And that's how it feels to be me most of the time.
I wish I had the picture with me. I had a conversation with my wife too, just in the past few days. We were down on the beach here in North Carolina with our kids, and it was really nice. We got to see fireworks and blah, blah, blah. But we're right next to the boardwalk, and our room was right there where everything's going on until midnight every night. Kids slept fine. My wife's just up staring out the window, like, you know, hopefully it can quiet down because you have the music going and everything else, the lights. Like, this is my brain. You open it up, like here's the window of what ADD looks like. It's a boardwalk circus at 11:30 with people chugging Michelob Ultra as quickly as they can before it closes.
I am so like ready to go all the time. Like I want to. Like I'm going to Portland tomorrow. I gotta like do all the usual, like I gotta shave and take a shower and all that kind of stuff. And then I gotta load my t-shirt bag and I gotta clean out my car. And like that stuff is so easy for me to do because it means I'm getting ready to go, you know? And my mom's gonna watch the kids, and I'm getting a new tattoo tomorrow, and pretty pumped because it's been, on the DADennial podcast, I've just been around my kids like too much lately.
What's the tattoo gonna be, or is it a surprise?
It's gonna be a seagull with an egg. There's a joke. All my tattoos are gonna be based on like comedy stuff from this point out. I have a tattoo on my arm that says "Do 30 minutes, please." But yeah, there was a rumor going around that I was eating seagull eggs, but it's not true.
I did hear that.
Yeah. So I used to have a joke, and I used to have seagull egg T-shirts that I still have some out in my garage that I should probably try to sell, but I'm just kind of sitting on them right now. But that tattoo, that "Do 30 minutes, please." So I got a huge opportunity to do a week's worth of shows at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. And I was very excited. It really has kind of changed a lot of these things, they change your career. Like there's a noticeable difference. Maybe some of it is confidence on my part. I know there's probably more to it than that, but maybe some of it's confidence. But anyway, I was supposed to do 10 minutes. It was a showcase show, but another comedian didn't show up. And so they asked me to do 20 minutes at the end of the show because this other comic didn't show up. And then while I was up there, I guess they were having some issues in the kitchen and they needed me to stretch. And so a waitress came up and held up a sign that said, "Do 30 minutes, please." And I kept the sign, which I still have. Yeah, it was awesome, man. Yeah, it was awesome.
You remember those special moments, especially in comedy. I feel like something like that happens. You know when you can feel it.
The beauty of comedy, I think, a lot of times is that we can take situations which many might deem tragic or meaningless and squeeze them for all they're worth. And I feel like comedy as a whole is that, like, a lot of the amazing things that have happened in my career thus far are born out of chaos, you know, like that set of events that took place so I could do 30 minutes at the Laugh Factory to close out a show. That's born out of chaos. Like that wasn't like a strategy on my point. Most of the good things in my life have happened by complete accident. And most of the turmoil that I've caused have been my idea.
That's the ADD brain right there that enjoys indulging in chaos and all the rest of me. It's apples to oranges, and I'm trying to move. I can't. Left, right. I can't. So back here somewhere, there's a poster from 2007 when I lived in Tampa, and it was the chaos of my roommate at the time had come back from overseas. He was in the Army, and I had just broken up. That's when I'd broken up with a girlfriend at the time, and we were both just kind of living life. And he always knew I always wanted to do stand-up, and he signed me up for the Tampa's Funniest, and then he signed me up for an open mic. Like, here you go, here's your chance. And for me to go from the open mic and then competing and then making it through 3 rounds to the finals there, then I asked for the poster there with my first little headshot behind me. That's awesome. Keep it in the wall there. Yep, I didn't.
It sounds like you were one of them cats that took naturally to it. Maybe when your kids get older, man, then maybe dive back in. It seems like you still love it. So.
Oh, it's one of those things. If it's always been that coping skill, it's always how I've dealt with things. It's either music or comedy. That's how I've worked through things. That's how I go through things. That's how I live life. Is look at it the funny way, and yeah, it's something. Of course, I'll always enjoy and always try to make people laugh in the house, and it goes over like a fart in an elevator sometimes, but that's okay. You try your best. I did lose out. It was only first place, got paid $1,000. It was, so who knows if I was second, third, or fourth. It was a dirty granny. It was one of those grannies in Florida that was just, every prop joke, every carrot top kind of thing of being a raunchy 80-year-old. She passed away a year after that. So, hey, let her ride out in style there.
But, I don't know. It seems kind of like a waste for them to win. They're only going to get to enjoy it for a year.
I don't think that was planned, but yeah, she was like 87 at the time, so it was almost that sympathy vote of like, oh look, Granny's holding a dildo. There we go. That's always worth a joke. So
those comedy competitions, man, can be really rough on people, man. I've seen a lot of, I always thought that it's funny, a comedy competition, because comedy is inherently like competitive, I always thought like having a comedy competition is kind of like having a little knife fight in the middle of a boxing match, like all of a sudden it's like everybody's like, or sprinting during a marathon, maybe that's a better analogy. So,
well, even like before, all the social media of doing this in 2007 and 2008, when I did some other competitions of that could be your break. That was your way of, if you could make it to the finals, if you could be there, like maybe someone might be watching, maybe someone might hear about you. And that was especially, I'm sure it's changed a little bit since then, but yeah, there's still probably that analogy of if I do really good at this, they could always be the person that won, what was it? The yearly one in Vegas was like, that they would have that, I feel like that person would always get like a national gig, at least for a few months. And that was,
I've done the Seattle International Comedy Competition twice. It's one of the bigger ones. And last 2 years ago, I got second place. Like I was right there. And it was a mind-blowing experience. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that I did it. I don't know if I could do it again. Like it'd be too hard knowing what I know now about what it's going to feel like. It might be really hard to do. So,
Second's fantastic ending. I think that's definitely probably giving you some more likes and subscribes and people following you in the Northwest there.
Yeah, and also with that one, I think second place. I think I got 5,000, something like that. So like you still get paid out. But it is like, man, it's a whole month of shows. Like you're everywhere, everywhere.
Do you have a comedian that either you looked up to and always kind of, thought like that's what you wanted to be, or is there a comedian that you like see nowadays? You're like, wow, that guy should be famous. That guy's like a great comedian.
Growing up, I saw a lot of Carlin. I saw some Pryor. Honestly, like the redneck comedy tour stuff, especially like Ron White. I was a big fan of that. But man, like, not really, dude. Like stand-up was never really like a huge interest of mine. when I got sober and I started going to meetings and stuff like that, people would tell me, they'd be like, hey, you should do stand-up. And that's how that's why I decided to walk into that open mic that day, is I thought that I could do it. And people told me that I should do it. And then I started doing it. But yeah, I've become like a fan of like, I think like Norm Macdonald, Mitch Hedberg, Maria Bamford. Those are probably like, and who I've gotten to know a little bit, which is cool. Yeah. And then as far as like folks coming up, man, he's already been on Joe Rogan and shit, but I think Sam Talent is is very unique and very funny. And he also wrote like a fantastic book about stand-up comedy, and it's a book that's kind of important to me. I don't know if you know that or not. He wrote a book called Running the Light. It's fiction, but it's based in reality for sure. About a comedian named Billy Ray Schaefer. It's like a cokehead, old headliner, still has like amazing chops, can still tear it up, but is also like in the process of like crashing and burning. Him, Bo Johnson is doing really well out of the Northwest right now. He actually helped me with all my internet stuff. And then your usuals like your Derek Sheens, your Monica Nevi, who I think is very underrated. She's a Northwest comic. All great, yeah.
Well, hopefully people be on the lookout. Check out these other comedians if they're in the Northwest, or if they start touring in the South or Northeast or wherever.
Yeah.
Sure.
People think I'm going to be doing very well, but I do not believe them. It doesn't seem like... I always tell this to people, even though I'm going as hard as I can, if this is as good as it gets, like that's pretty good. Like I'm able to headline a lot of places and I make enough money to keep going. And I imagine that it'll get easier. So we'll see.
I'm sure there's always new challenges and new struggles, right? You reach one plateau and then there's something else after that, I feel like.
What's the shit the Buddhists say about like that freedom from want or whatever? Like what is it? You know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
Yeah, it's like existentialism stuff. It's like life is suffering, basically. Like there's always, no matter what, there's always going to be like the next thing you want, and the best thing you can do is just be in the moment and be okay.
Yep. Being mindful, being aware, being present.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm able to do out at the river. Maybe that's why I'm out at the river so much, as I'm trying to do that. So.
Look at this. We had an epiphany here in this session. That's
Yeah. Well, I don't want to burst your bubble, Mike, but I think about that quite a lot. So
when it's about probably 7-8 years ago. So this is when I was living in Massachusetts. There's a mindfulness-based stress center. Like this is like where the mindfulness-based, as American, from this guy John Kabat-Zinn, who kind of made it in the 70s, and it's the whole center. And I took the class. It was like an 8-week class, and you really learned of mindful eating and mindful walking. And the pass the course, kind of get your certificate at the end, was you had to spend a whole day in a quiet retreat, which is like absolute hell for someone like myself that just talks all day and has just nonstop, and me just walking around outside doing mindful walks like every 30 minutes if like I need to talk. So I couldn't imagine when they talk about like, oh, next step is you can do a mindful quiet weekend. I'm like, no, I think I might go crazy. But yeah, full day. It is fascinating when you kind of challenge yourself, right? Of finding those moments and learning how to be aware and being present and being with your family or with yourself or wherever you are, of trying to do it. And yeah, it's part of getting older too, I think, right? Of being wiser and getting better with age. Just like the comedy too, right?
Yeah, I find myself after shows sometimes without even realizing it. I don't put my music on. I don't put a podcast on, especially during the summer when it's nice out. I'll have my windows down, have my hand out the window, and just kind of like, I can't say it's real, like any type of real like meditative like practice or anything like that, because generally I'm like reliving the show in my head. But in those moments, I am relaxed, and
that's definitely like your mind processing. It kind of goes to that feeling of what we call like a drug, right? It's like that feeling of, and that's your mind kind of processing that high as you're coming down, of reliving it as it's kind of going in the memory banks there, something that's you'll remember. Because I'm sure you've talked to, as I've talked to a few and seen many interviews with comedians, of they can remember certain shows in a second, right? They'll know of like, oh, I remember that date, I remember that time, because that's that thing, right? That you're processing, you're kind of remembering of what that feels like.
That Laugh Factory show, and having them hold up that sign, and like realizing that, like, I think it was 15 minutes in when they held up that do 30 minutes sign, and I was getting ready to land the plane, but also realizing that I have like more than enough material to make this work. Like I didn't have to worry at all. Like I could give a shit, you know. They could have me I could have done another hour. You know, if they hold up a sign and it was like, do an hour, please, I would have loved that, you know. Like,
that's a special trait. My little experience of very few comedians can just do that. Very few, I mean, myself included, if, you know, if I had 15, 20 minutes of, told me to go another 20 minutes of, you know, you're going to get a lot of crowd work. That's what you're going to get, a lot of crowd work.
Yeah, we were talking about epiphanies, and I actually have had those in the stand-up comedy world where there's been moments. I featured for a guy named Mark Yaffe in Salem one time, and I think I was doing 25 minutes or whatever, and I always had like a set list, and I wouldn't pull it out, but I always had it, and I did my jokes in the same order. But I remember that day, I couldn't decide between these three separate like paths that I could take. And I remember being up on stage and deciding against the path that I had planned on, and realizing in that moment that I had enough material for at least 30 minutes to do whatever the hell I wanted. And now it's like the same thing, but multiplied, you know, where I have enough material now where I can relax on stage. Because I need to, because that creates my ability to find that balance in my life. Like, it's kind of a weird thing, man. If I do stand-up comedy, like I have to do it at a high level and I have to be good at it. Because otherwise I'm not creating that other side of the coin, you know? Like that's my calling in life, I think. I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense completely, but like, I can't enjoy being quiet by the river if I'm not incredibly loud at the club. You know?
That makes sense. It's a different sides of you.
Yeah.
What is that other side of the coin? I'm curious of that.
I think it is, man, like finding ways to be calm and happy at the same time. You know, my whole life I've always had to be so extra all the time. Like, and it's not necessarily a good way to live. And it got me in a lot of trouble, you know, with drugs and stuff, man. Like, I wasn't just addicted to the substances. I was addicted to like the ideology. I was addicted to like, to not caring, you know. I was addicted to chaos, you know. I was addicted to like, that like really shallow type of excitement of like, will I or won't I tonight, you know? Like, because there was nights, man, where I would just like chill and smoke weed. But then there were other nights where I'd be up for 3 days, you know? It's a different feeling.
Did you ever, in your kind of journey that you've made now, and I know we talked just a little bit in the past hour here of kind of the ADD part, and I'm always fascinated with it. The more I read of what you're describing is kind of like that dopamine that we, as ADD, that you always need, that you're always searching for. You're always doing things that are more dangerous, that you will, you know, do whatever you can. Maybe sometimes to get the rush, or sometimes you don't need it as much. It sounds very, as we kind of learn more and understand more of, you know, one of those things of where it comes from. That ADD kind of gives you that you're more apt for doing crazier things, and the rate of substance use with people that have been diagnosed with ADD is a remarkably high number of, if I recall, of over 70%, and that's, you know, kind of a difficulty, right? Of helped me understand too at one point, of as an adult, of why I kind of searched out crazy things to do just to feel a rush, just to kind of, right, that feeling of being on stage, or that feeling of you were saying earlier of needing some space away from the kids, and that was me. And I was just saying when I wrote the email to you, I had come back from Vegas, so I was in Vegas for 4 days with a friend of mine that is a professional poker player. He was actually in one of my first episodes, talking about his transition from being a day-to-day cubicle worker to being a professional poker player. And we decided to play the tag team event for the World Series of Poker. And when I told it to my wife, she was like, "Of course, that's you. You're the person that, has done stand-up comedies, has her own therapy practice, written a children's book, tried out for luge as a kid, done all these crazy things. Of course, you want to try out for the World Series of Poker and tag team." But got knocked out in the first 3 hours. But hey, it was worth the trip, worth the fun of just getting away from everybody and just kind of doing something and having that, still needing that kind of like release valve, right? Of needing that place to go. That's now as you're older, like you understand it, like you still need that, but you need to be safer and you need to, your boundaries, what to avoid.
Yeah, that I still get, man. I mean, I'm kind of just chasing that rush still. And, the way we talk about ADHD and the way we talk about addiction and like having been somebody who's, was in the chemical dependency world at least. And then also I worked with homeless youth in Tacoma.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to find out like where trauma, like, so whenever there's like a behavior that I'm noticing in myself, I can ask myself, I'm like, what's the motivation for that? Is that is that ADHD? Is that trauma? Is that substance use? And I think usually the answer is it's some combination thereof, right? So
yep. That's exactly it.
The way I present and the way I talk, the way I think, it's like the opposite of divorced. It is impossible to separate myself from, I hate to do this, but like these like disorders or whatever, because I feel like with what I'm asked to do, like I am asked to go up on stage and be funny and to be funny for a long period of time. And, people want me to do movies and shit like that. And they want me to do like on-screen stuff. And I have done it. I cannot remember lines. I do not know how to teach myself how to remember lines. And I have no want. And it feels like torture to me to figure that out. However, I will do a joke that I haven't done in 4 years and do a tag, right? I'll tag that joke while I'm doing it. I won't do the joke for another 4 years. And then when I do the joke, I won't just remember the joke that I haven't done in 4 years. I'll remember the tag that I did just one time because it got a laugh. And it laughs, that chemical that was released in my head when people laugh at me, especially a new joke, it like cements it in my head.
Right. You don't get that if you're doing a show. You're reading lines and tough to remember.
Yeah, but I can literally do, man. I've probably done an hour and then probably done another hour a couple months later. They were very, very similar, basically doing the same jokes. Like when I was getting ready. So I have an album coming out in October on Stand Up Records. And that album, I did those jokes in that order over and over again because I'm getting ready to record an album. And it got to a point, like I got bored of it, obviously, but like it got to a point where like that's what it felt like I was reading lines, but I never had an issue remembering. Like once I start the joke, I know how to get through it and I know how to finish it, So it's man, I don't even understand it. I feel like we haven't talked at all about my kids, but that's fine. We've done enough today to me.
That's not the worst thing. I don't know if you watched.
Just know that I have them and that I love them. There's this bit I used to do where like I'd say, I love my kids more than anything in the world, but I regret fatherhood every single day.
Yeah, that's part of that balance too. From about 9 to whatever in the afternoon, it's like cursing it up, and then by not this time of night. It's like, I can't wait to see him in the morning. You might open a door and see him sleeping. I'm like, that's the cutest you'll see him, and
Oh yeah,
until they open their mouth again, and you're like, God bless it.
No, my kids are cool. They're doing good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, mine too. I did want to bring up one thing that I do in each show, what I call an line, which we let it out now. It's kind of what we're talking about, right? We're letting out different thoughts, different feelings, different ideas that we're sharing here, and so I like to. One thing I do is journal a lot. I write a lot of different thoughts or feelings, and kind of let them out here. And I want people to let them out on the place on the website and DADennial.com Facebook page. You can share your thoughts, feelings, positive only, right? I'm sure you've seen that too of the mix in nowadays. But yeah, the one I was just thinking about, and kind of tied into of just mentioned about Vegas, of one of my top 10 fears on a regular basis if I have to fly is number 7 is the extender belt. That is a fear of larger individuals. when you get in a flight and you have to fly, I'm like, oh God, have I gained enough where the belt is needed, where I need to press the button to get the extender belt, and which I didn't, thankfully. Yeah, Southwest was a little snug, but that is a flight. A Southwest flight from Vegas to anywhere in the Southeast, that looks like a government experiment. And I'm part of it. It feels like. From that to, as I was saying too, of going with my kids to the beach a couple days ago for the 4th of some of those rides of, I don't think, as my 3-year-old likes to call me Big Daddy, which, if I'm not with my wife around, I can be called a DCF maybe, but so it just kind of made me think of, that's the one thing that, so every year I kind of write of goals, ideas I have for myself, things I want to work on in the beginning of each year, and I collect them all, and I've been doing it for many years. That's the one, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about of, as we learn, as we get older, I feel like binge eating is part of ADD. I feel like, eating your feelings, sometimes it's just kind of a cathartic thing to do, and so trying to balance it with two young kids, and some of these moments coming up of, really want to try to figure out a way of, because I think more and more you read too of, you see the Ozempic, and like, I don't think I want that. That's not going to be the case, and I don't want the surgery that somehow was offered to me even when I was skinnier. And it was weird. Just trying to figure out of how do you, stay in shape? How do you balance it all for not just me, but being a comedian, right? Nighttime is the worst, and you're just kind of thinking all night and probably eating, and then it's tough to try to figure out that balance. That's the one thing that's kind of been on my mind, and just wanted to let out, and my Let It Out Now t-shirt kind of goes with that too, as it's out. But I didn't know if you had anything that you want to let out, or anything that's on your mind today that you haven't shared already. I feel like you shared a lot.
Man, what's strange is that I saw my therapist on the 4th of July, and we're working around ideas of like forgiveness for myself, because I did do a lot of drugs for 15 years and spent a lot of time incarcerated, spent a lot of time homeless, and like, man, there's things that I've done that I'm ashamed of still. And I was thinking about this today, is that occasionally, so right, like, when after a show, I'll be sitting in my car and I'll be thinking about a joke, and I'll be like, oh, I should talk about this. And I'll think about something else that's happened. I'll be like, oh yeah, what about that other time when you did this? And that'll be something that I haven't thought of in 15 years. And like something that happened, maybe something that I did, that sucks sometimes, to always feel like, it doesn't happen as much as it used to. My first year sober was harder than my last year drinking and doing drugs, because like, I'm basically just having like this constant realization about like how much work it's actually going to take. Like whenever I felt like I got a hold of it, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I need to do this and this. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I'll be all right. And then right when I get going on some of that stuff, I'm like, oh no, what about this, and this?
No, it's kind of the ideal of, it's easier to kind of run away or kind of point the finger outwards and to look within, and to do the work and to do that. And for doing that so many years, I mean, to me, my my little brain. I feel like it would be because when I do would be, it's still processing all the trauma. You're still kind of thinking about it, still kind of going through it.
Yeah, and that's what I told my therapist. Is it like it's just a process for me, man. Like I'm not really trying to get anywhere. Like I feel like it just takes time, and that's what I'm working on. I feel like every day that I'm sober is me forgiving myself, and that if I'm gonna forgive myself, that means I got to do the work, like I don't want to do any because I used to do those shallow apologies all the time, and ask for forgiveness from people because I wanted to be able to continue to manipulate them to get what I needed, and now I don't feel like I operate like that. I have moments of extreme shallowness still. I can be very vain at times and selfish. Comedy itself is like a real ego-feeding operation, and that's why I go to the river.
That does sum it all up. Go to the river, everybody. That's where you need to find yourself, and you will be awakened. You'll probably find Sam Miller out there if you're in the Northwest, if you're in Olympia, Washington. And we didn't even touch on it, right? I mean, you might see him with his shirt called Let's Dance, which you can find at sammillercomedy.com.
Yeah, I'll do all my plugs. So Sam Miller Comedy on Facebook, Sam Miller Comedian on Instagram. My website, sammillercomedy.com. I'm probably coming around to where you're at. I'm going all over.
Yeah, there's Good Nights in Raleigh. It's the name of the comedy club here.
Oh, yeah?
Pretty good. Yeah.
I got people that want to see me in North Carolina. I get messages all the time.
See, what I've wanted to do is, and this is maybe the crazy kind of brain of I need something to kind of feel something kind of thing sometimes, of feel the audience almost piece of it, is if I could take the podcast here, I think it'd be funny in the sense of bring it live, right? Do it in a comedy club where you have people doing it, and you have people coming up to you kind of, they can share whatever they want, kind of, have a comedy riff, kind of comedy thing going off of that with the DADennial piece of this too, like a line, things like that, having it with another comedian or doing. There's not enough duos out there. There's not enough comedy duos. That's what we need to bring back, the old comedy duos.
Outside of the Sklar brothers or whatever.
Oh, gee, I forgot about them. Yeah,
I'd love to be a part of something like that, man. Like I said, I want to come out there. So
yeah, no, we will definitely be in touch. I won't be sending any more crazy emails unless I go to Vegas anytime soon. So that should be ruled out for about probably a year or two. I always like to end the show too we were talking a lot about therapy, and I thank you, and I appreciate a lot that you're sharing so much. And I think you're helping a lot of people by telling your story. And I mean, I know you are, just from being a therapist and working with other people in substance use before, that stories like this help. That does help them. It does kind of give them okay, I can get through it. There is a door to open to the other side if that's what you want to do, if you get to that point. And I really thank you for sharing that tonight. I guess I wonder too if during those stages or at any point before you started seeing a therapist, there's always that stigma, right? I always try to make the show of can we make the stigma a little bit less about therapy. So is there anything out there that you'd share to someone, or any question that you'd ask a therapist, or anything that is you thought was one thing about therapy but you learned something else? It's an open question there.
I think that it's kind of silly the way we look at it sometimes. I want to be the backslash in my lineage, basically. I want this to be a new chapter for me and my family. My kids have never seen me drunk or high, and my kids are not scared of me. I took a picture. We went to a movie a couple weeks ago there, and we took a picture afterward. I set up the little timer on the camera, and I was like, come on guys, we're taking a picture. And both my kids went under my arms, instinctively, and sat there. And I would never purposefully have physical contact with my dad, even when he was touching me in a loving way. And there was never any sexual abuse or anything like that. But even when he was touching me in a loving way, it freaked me out. It freaked me out. I still don't like to be touched, by people I don't know very well. And Yeah, my kids ain't that way. My kids ain't that way at all. And that's because it's because I got help, and that people I talked to, they took away that stigma, And also there came a point where it's like, all right, so I'm using support groups to stay away from alcohol, basically, doing 12-step stuff. And that worked really well for me. And then it's like, all right, well, what then? What else do you got? Like, what else? Like if I'm doing all that to work on my substance use stuff and I'm still doing damage to people that love me, like, that's no way to live, Why would you walk? It's like walking, like there's a great view on the other side of the hill. Why would you only walk 3/4 of the way up? You're already like that's
maybe it was a Krispy Kreme. There's a donut shop you had to stop at.
Yeah.
And,
if you're on the fence about doing therapy, I'd say don't think about it and just do it. Like, that's where I'm at with it.
No, that's great advice.
Yeah,
and I think that's a great thing for people to hear. Then want to try therapy or don't know where to start. Yeah, just do it. Well, I want to thank you again, Sam, and I appreciate it. And don't forget about the TARP report too. Hey, I'm happy to pitch in the TARP report. Have any anything I can. But yeah, I appreciate your time and appreciate you doing this. And go to Sam Miller website, sammillercomedy.com, and hopefully he'll be in your town soon. Hopefully he'll be coming to Raleigh and get to see him live. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Mike.
I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank everyone for subscribing to DADennial and on your favorite podcast platform. We are on Apple, Spotify, and on many others. I want you to be able to go to DADennial.com, DADENNIAL.com, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'll be trying to put up at least one weekly blog kind of idea for a lion or something that's going on this week, or a post that you people put out there on Facebook. Nice post, please. On LinkedIn. Things like that to let me know how this is helping, or things that are on your mind, or questions or thoughts that I can bring up on the show. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to know what your feedback is. I hope to be continuing more and more of these. I know DADennial can be in your neighborhood too. So let's all work together. Let's show our support. Let's show how much we are all lions and all ones as DADennials today. Thank you.